I'm proud to introduce this 57 Chevy. That's a Bel Air that was recently introduced to the collection. It's a new addition. It just purchased in from Utah actually, and hasn't had a chance to get the treatment yet, so it's a perfect car for us to demo all of the new products we've come out with. Fairly fresh restoration, about 2 years old, but it has spent some time outside. It's clearly a driver. Excellent condition, but it does have the imperfections you'd expect from a car that sees driving. And because this was purchased from a restoration shop, there is some paint overspray and some other issues that we can address and show you how to address those same issues on your car. The first thing we're going to talk about is clay bar. Many people are familiar with it. If you're not, hey, you're not alone. There are people out there who haven't used one before. A clay bar is a non-abrasive process that you use to remove things like paint overspray, those little rust-colored specks on a white car that you see, commonly referred to as rail dust, bug splats maybe that just won't wash off, anything that's a really stubborn, stuck-on contamination that won't come off with just washing alone. It's a perfectly safe process, actually very easy to do, and something you only have to do once in a great while as the paint feels rough. Now, how do you know when it's time to clay? Well, if you've never clayed your car, now's the time to clay it. New cars need it as they've been on trains or trucks on their way from the factory to the dealership where you purchased them, or cars that you've owned for a long time. They've been exposed to the elements, they're gonna have something stuck to the surface. The easiest way to know is just to feel it. If your paint feels rough with your bare hand, or you can hear it, like I can there, I usually say there should be no soundtrack to your paint. So this one we can hear, and this one is definitely rough. You can even see a lot of light colored specks, so there's some paint overspray or something going on with this. But let's say you feel it, and you go, no, it's not, maybe it's kind of rough, but I don't know. You can take any clear plastic bag, a plastic sandwich bag. This is a bag off one of our polishing pads. Place your hand inside and just gently feel the paint. The plastic magnifies all those little bumps and contaminations. This thing has got a lot of them. You'll be able to feel, yeah, this is definitely cars in need of clay. Not that we didn't know that already. So we now know we need to clay. What steps do we take to prepare? Obviously, we're gonna start with a clean car. The Bel Air here has already been washed and dried, so it's ready to go. We have a couple of different suggestions I'm gonna make, depending on your car. Masking tape and trim conditioner. Now, trim conditioner, why am I gonna worry about the rubber on my car if I'm claying? Well, this is a process you can do now because if you happen to if I want to condition these rubber seals here, I'm going to end up getting conditioner down on the paint and things. If I'm going to be claying and polishing and all these things anyways, might as well throw the conditioner on now. It'll also help things like polishes and waxes from sticking to the trim. Very helpful on a newer car where you have a lot of plastic seals exposed. Also, tape. Now, on a car like the Bel Air here, we've got these large hood ornaments, we've got all kinds of trim and gaps and things. A lot of guys will mask off. Any kind of masking tape will work. I do recommend nothing with an edge lock or an additive that helps it prevent paint bleed. We're not dealing with paint here, we're dealing with already cured paint, but we don't need those extra additives. Sometimes those chemicals in the tape can cause damage to certain automotive finishes. For this, I'm gonna demonstrate in this area here. We don't necessarily need to mask, but if I were gonna mask this car off, I would mask all of the trim around the windows, the base around the wiper blades here, and I'd probably take a little bit of tape and mask off our hood ornaments. So, we have our 80-gram clay bar. It's a fine grade clay, so this is not going to introduce any excessive damage to a finish more than any other clay bar would. Very, very fine grade, so it's safe on any automotive finish. It also is extremely soft, but it's not too sticky. That's kind of the sweet spot for clay. You want a clay bar that doesn't stick on your hands, but just a little bit of stickiness so it can pick up all that contamination as it's gliding along. So I'm gonna take our 80-gram bar and I'm gonna flatten it out, work it, and I want a piece that's roughly the size of 4 fingers across. I want to cover my hand like that. It lets me hold on to it. Some guys will even, to keep from dropping it, because if you drop your clay, that's a big no-no, you can take that piece, fold it over your finger. Gives you a little bit extra grip so you don't lose it. As far as lubrication goes, we've got 2 options. If you like something that's just ready to use right out of the bottle, you don't want to have to mix anything, our polymer detail spray is perfect as a clay lubricant. Works great, makes it nice and slippery, and you can use it right out of the bottle. Another option is to take our rinse-free wash and wax, which is a concentrate, and you mix it 64:1, so just a tiny bit. It's about 2 ounces per gallon into a dilution bottle like this one. This is really economical and allows you to create a ton of your clay lubricant. So if you've got a lot of cars to clay or a large car like the Bel Air here, which is definitely a land yacht by some standards, this is a perfect option. So I'm gonna go with that. Give it a good shake and make sure my rinse-free is diluted and nice and slick in there. I'm gonna soak the area I'm claying. Don't want to oversaturate, you just want it wet. I'm gonna take the clay and I'm gonna work in a back and forth motion. You don't need to press hard. That's one mistake a lot of people make when they first try claying is they get tired, they wear themselves out, and they tell me, man, claying's hard work. Why? Shouldn't be. But let the clay do the work. Slide it along, and you're going to work in one direction, and then work back the other way, cover in the other direction. And you'll actually feel the paint get smooth under your hand. The clay will stop grabbing out of those contaminants and kind of slide a little bit easier as you go. If you start to feel it sticking and grab into the paint anywhere, a couple more shots of lubricant just to keep it sliding. And this, I have a feeling, is going to have a lot of paint overspray come up. And, yep, somebody has clearly painted something black near this car. That looks like paint overspray and a lot of it. So, after we've done that, I'm going to take the bar, fold it in on itself, and start to flatten it back out again. I want to push those contaminants into the middle of the bar and reveal kind of a fresh spot to work with. So, smash it back out with the 4 fingers, fold it over my hand, and resume with my next spot. Now, the question I'm asked a lot during demonstrations and different car shows is how many times can I use a clay bar? How do I know when it's time to replace the clay bar? There's not a one-size-fits-all answer for that, but if you do that stretch and fold technique and reveal a new face of the clay and it still shows dirt, probably time to replace it. An average car that gets clayed regularly isn't going to have a chance to get so dirty that you have to replace your clay very often. So it may last you through multiple clayings, up to maybe 6, 7, 8 cars. If it's a car like this that clearly hasn't been clayed in a long time or ever clayed at all, and it's heavy, heavy contamination, this clay bar might make it through this one and one more car, and then it's done for. Just as soon as you stop seeing clean surfaces when you stretch it out. So, 30 again, fold it in on itself, give it a good smash, and spread it out again. And just keep repeating that process until your clay no longer has any clean surfaces left. Now, something I should mention too is if you've got paint overspray or any kind of contamination on the paint, it didn't miss the glass. It saw the paint, it saw the glass, and it's going to hit both. So you can use your clay on your glass as well. You're already going to be doing the paint anyways, no harm in taking care of the glass while you're at it. A lot of times the things you see on your windshield you think are chips and pits turn out to be things that you just couldn't get off by washing alone, little bits of bug guts and things like that. So always clay your glass while you're claying the paint. It's quick, easy, and clearly there was overspray even on the glass as well. I'm going to run around and finish up the rest of the car with the clay bar, stretching and folding regularly. Then we're going to get into polishing. So I've run around, got every single surface I could on this, and the clay is definitely getting contaminated and full of stuff, but we got all the paint overspray off, and it's, even on the lubricant, I can feel that's nice and smooth. So we got everything off that was on there. Now, there is some different schools of thought about where you go next from here. If you're claying, most likely you're going to be doing some paint correction or polishing after this point. Depending on your preference and a little bit on how dirty the car is, you have a few decisions to make. At this point, you could as simple as just wipe down the car to remove all this excess moisture. Some guys will go so far as to actually just rewash the car again, a whole hose and bucket method. Because pretty much all we picked up was a lot of paint overspray and nothing else that was super gritty, I'm going to go with just the wipe down method. But if I had picked up lots of tar or lots of dried on sap, things that would have some, a little bit more grit to it that might potentially still be kind of suspended in this lubricant here, I might consider washing at that point. For our purposes here though, we're just going to knock off this extra liquid with an edgeless towel, and then we can get right into polishing.